just when you thought math was, you got it and you understood how to work with surds and you got to, let's say, simplify them and everything, then they show you this and they say, hey, rationalize that. Now that is a bit extreme. Now, just a little side note. In the previous video, we looked at something like this and we said, okay, well, we can't, well, this is not rationalized. Oh, wait, I just didn't write that nice enough. Let's do this. So usually if you were to get an answer like this in your IG exam, it's expected that you rationalize it. So they won't always just give this to you and say, oh, hi, please rationalize this. It's expected that you just do it. So it's not always a question. It's like one of those things like, oh, you know, write round to 3 significant figures or give your answer in simplest, well, in forms of pi or something, most simple form if you give a fraction. So this is kind of when you have this, or you get an answer like this for some trig question or whatever question it might be, it's kind of expected that you rationalize this. So it won't always be explicitly said. So just take a note. But anyway, this is a bit of a tricky one. You need some basic, let's say, past experience with algebraic manipulation, let's say binomial expansion, and so a lot of stuff. So if you don't know everything now, it's fine, but I'm just making a video about this now. I'll link some videos later in the description that will help you with this. Okay, so in this case, we know we can't just multiply with the square root of 2. And what we might want to do is we might say, okay, well, I'm just going to kind of follow the same thing and multiply with this top and bottom. This might be an option for us. And we think, oh, well, that's what we did when we had this. Okay, sorry, let me just write this. When I had this is what I did, right? So I multiplied with a magic 1 and I saw, okay, this disappears and this times this would give me 2 and then I'll have this, okay? But here that's not going to be an option because if let's just rewrite what's happening here. If I did 1 plus the square root of 2 times 1 plus the square, well, let's write that a little bit neater, the square root of 2, 1 times 1 is going to give me 1. And then that's going to be plus the square root of 2 and plus another square root of 2. And then plus those would cancel out, right? So 2. If you're not familiar with this, I'm basically just multiplying every term here with every term there, okay? But here, this is not nice. It'll just complicate things because suddenly I'll have a fraction with this whole thing at the bottom. It'll be like 2 square root of 2 plus 3 at the bottom, and that's not going to be nice. So I have to do something different, and I'm going to use a little trick, and the trick is called the conjugate. And that's basically, the conjugate is the same numbers, but the kind of the special number here, instead of having a plus, it's going to be a minus. So I'm going to do the following. I'll write it down here. So this is my original denominator. Okay, so this is that. And the conjugate is the same numbers, so the 1 and the square root of 2, but the special number in this case, or the irrational number here, I'm going to make a negative. Okay, this looks very similar to the difference of squares. If you've done factorization before, then you'll know, well, this is kind of whenever I have, let's say, a squared minus b squared, that becomes a plus b, a minus b. Okay, so it's very similar to this, and you'll see what happens now. Some magic will happen. Let's just do a different color. So if I multiply the 1 with the 1, I get the 1, and multiply these, okay, let's do little bows. Okay, those two would give me plus, well, 1 the square root of 2, and if I multiply okay, sorry, let's do, oh, I confused myself now. Those two, then minus the square root of 2, and then the last two would be around there, and that would be minus square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is just 2. And what happens here is I see these, the plus and the minus, they cancel each other out, and what I'm going to be left with is just 1 minus 2, which is minus 1. Okay, so this is what I'm doing whenever I have a denominator and it has like a constant with it, or it's being added or subtracted with something, then I'm just going to use the conjugate. I'm going to write the same numbers and I'm just going to change the sign. So in this case, we saw this won't work. So we're going to make this a negative. And then once we multiply this out, at the bottom I did this now. So this is going to be, I can make little brackets if it makes it easier. 1 times 1 is the 1. And then we have the plus square root minus the square root, which would be 0. And then the plus and the minus would give me a minus 2 in that case. And then here I multiply the 2 with the 1, so I have a 2. And the 2, well, the plus times the negative is a negative. And then 2 and the square root of 2. Okay, so 2 minus 2, the square root of 2, over 1 minus 2 is just negative 1. Okay, you can, yeah, I think this is good enough. You can factor this. I don't know if you would, but that would be 1 minus the square root of 2 over negative 1. But the important bit here is just that we have removed the irrational number from the denominator. Let's do another one. Sorry if it is becoming a bit of a long video. Let's just do another one. Just think I'll do 2 minus the square root of 3 over, let's just make it 4. So in this case, I'm going to again need to find the conjugate because I have two numbers multiplied. And, well, not multiplied, I have two numbers in here. And just multiplying but with the surd or the square root of 3 is not going to help me. So I'll do a little bit of color coding here. I'm going to multiply top and bottom with a magic 1, but it's the conjugate. So the 2 and the negative 3 are right. But because this is a negative number, I'm going to make this one a positive number so that they cancel out. Okay, so at the top we're going to have 4 times 2, which is 8. And 4 times the square root, well, plus times plus is plus, and then 4 the square root of 3. So that is kind of those two things. And here at the bottom I'll get 2 times 2, which is 4. I'll write everything out. Minus 2 and the square root of 3 plus 2 and the square root of 3. And then eventually end off with a negative 3. And these two are going to cancel out, and I'm left with 8 plus 4, the square root of 3, all over 4 minus 3, is 1. So in this case, actually just this. Very nice. And that's our answer.